The night shift at the Grand City Convention Center started at 6 in the evening and ended at 2 in the morning. For most people, those hours meant sleep, dinner with family, or watching television on the couch. But for Raymond, a 34-year-old father of one, those hours meant something entirely different. They meant survival. Every single day, Raymond would wake up around noon, make lunch for his 7-year-old daughter, help her with homework, and then drop her off at his mother's small apartment before heading to work. His daughter's name was Lily, and she was the only reason he kept going. She was the only reason he woke up every morning with a purpose. Without her, Raymond often thought, he would have given up a long time ago. Raymond worked as a janitor. He pushed a cleaning cart through long hallways, mopped floors that nobody noticed, emptied trash cans filled with coffee cups and crumpled papers, and scrubbed toilets in bathrooms that smelled like bleach and regret. It was not the life he had imagined for himself. Not even close. But life has a strange way of taking your dreams and folding them into small pieces until they fit inside your pocket. Forgotten and dusty. 10 years ago, Raymond was a different person. He was 24, full of hope, and blessed with a voice that made people stop whatever they were doing just to listen. His high school music teacher once told him that voices like his came around once in a generation. That teacher pushed him to audition for a music scholarship at a university 300 miles away from his small hometown, and Raymond got it. He got the scholarship. He packed his bags, kissed his mother goodbye, and left for what he thought would be the beginning of something beautiful. For 2 years, everything was perfect. He studied music, performed at campus events, and fell in love with a woman named Christine, who had bright eyes and a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. They got married young, barely 26, and a year later, Lily was born. Raymond held his baby daughter in the hospital room and cried tears of joy. He whispered promises into her tiny ears. He told her he would give her the world. He told her he would never let her down. But promises are easy to make and hard to keep. Christine changed after Lily was born. Maybe it was the stress of being a young mother. Maybe it was something deeper that Raymond never understood. She became distant, cold, and often angry for reasons she could not explain. Raymond tried everything. He worked part-time jobs while still attending classes. He cooked, cleaned, and took care of Lily during the nights when Christine locked herself in the bedroom and refused to come out. He gave up sleep, he gave up his own needs, but nothing he did was ever enough. One morning, when Lily was barely 2 years old, Raymond woke up to find a note on the kitchen table. Christine was gone. She had packed a bag in the middle of the night and left without saying goodbye. The note was short. It said she was not ready to be a mother. It said she needed to find herself. It said she was sorry. Raymond read that note 17 times before the words finally sank in. He dropped out of university that same week. There was no other choice. He had a 2-year-old daughter who needed him, and he had no money, no degree, and no plan. He moved back to his hometown, back into his mother's small apartment, and started looking for any job that would pay the bills. The music scholarship was gone. The dreams were gone. The future he had imagined was gone, but Lily was still there, and for Raymond, that was enough. The janitor job came 3 years ago. A friend of a friend told him the convention center was hiring, and Raymond showed up the next day with a wrinkled resume and a heart full of desperation. The hiring manager barely looked at him. She asked if he could work nights. He said yes. She asked if he had any experience with cleaning. He said no, but he could learn. She handed him a gray uniform with his name stitched on the front pocket and told him to start that evening. From that day on, Raymond became invisible. That is the thing about being a janitor. People do not see you. They walk past you like you are part of the furniture. They talk on their phones, laugh with their friends, and never once glance at the man pushing the mop bucket down the hallway. Raymond learned to accept this. He learned to keep his head down, do his work, and go home. He learned that pride was a luxury he could not afford. But late at night, when the convention center was empty and the hallways were dark, something magical happened. Raymond would sing. He did not plan it. It just happened naturally. One night, While mopping the floors near the main stage, he started humming a song his mother used to sing to him when he was a child. The humming turned into soft singing. The soft singing turned into something more. His voice echoed off the high ceilings and bounced off the empty seats. And for a few precious minutes, Raymond was not a janitor anymore. He was the young man with the music scholarship. He was the person he used to be. Nobody ever heard him. He made sure of that. He only sang when he was completely alone, when the security guards were on their breaks, and when the building was silent. Singing was his secret. It was the one piece of his old self that he refused to let go, but he never told anyone about it. Not his mother, not his co-workers, not even Lily. He was afraid. Afraid that if he spoke about his dreams out loud, he would have to admit how far he had fallen. Afraid that people would laugh at a 34-year-old janitor who still believed he could sing. Afraid that hope, once allowed back into his heart, would only hurt him again. So he kept quiet. He worked his shifts, collected his paycheck, and went home to his daughter. Every night, he would pick up Lily from his mother's apartment, carry her sleeping body to their tiny one-bedroom place, and tuck her into the bed they shared because he could not afford a second room. He would kiss her forehead and whisper the same words every single time. "Daddy loves you more than anything in this world." And then, he would sit on the floor beside the bed, too tired to move, and wonder if this was all his life would ever be. The answer to that question would come sooner than he expected. It would come on a random Friday night, in the same convention center where he pushed his cleaning cart through empty hallways. It would come in the form of a moment he never saw coming, a moment that would change everything. But Raymond did not know that yet. On this particular evening, he clocked in at 6 like always, grabbed his mop and bucket, and started his usual routine. The convention center was buzzing with activity, bright lights, loud music, and hundreds of people filled the main hall. A big event was happening tonight. Some kind of talent competition. Raymond had seen the posters on the walls for weeks, but he never paid much attention. Events like that were for other people, people with dreams that had not yet been broken. He kept his head down and got to work. He had floors to clean and bathrooms to scrub. That was his job. That was his life, or so he thought. The talent competition that night was called Stars Among Us. It was one of those regional contests that traveled from city to city, giving ordinary people a chance to show their gifts in front of a live audience and a panel of judges. The winner would receive a cash prize of $10,000 and the opportunity to perform at a bigger stage in the state capitol. For most contestants, this was the moment they had been waiting for their entire lives. Raymond knew nothing about any of this. To him, the event was just another reason the convention center was loud and crowded. More people meant more trash. More trash meant more work. He kept his head down and focused on his tasks, moving through the building like a shadow that nobody noticed. The main hall was packed with at least 500 people. Families sat in rows of folding chairs, holding homemade signs with names written in glitter and marker. Kids ran around with cotton candy. Couples held hands and whispered to each other. The energy in the room was electric. The kind of excitement that fills the air before something big is about to happen. Backstage was a different story. Behind the heavy curtains, the atmosphere was tense. Contestants paced back and forth, practicing their lines, warming up their voices, and trying to calm their nerves. Some of them had been preparing for this moment for months. Others had been dreaming about it for years. The pressure was real, and it showed on their faces. Raymond had been assigned to clean the backstage area that night. His supervisor, a heavy-set man with a permanent frown, had pointed at the backstage door and said, "Make sure that area stays spotless. The organizers are paying extra for a clean venue. Do not mess this up." Raymond had nodded and grabbed his supplies. He was used to being told what to do. He was used to being treated like he did not matter. It no longer bothered him the way it used to. He had learned to let those feelings roll off his back like water. Getting upset would not change anything. It would not pay his rent or put food on the table for Lily. So he pushed his cart through the backstage door and got to work. The first hour went by without any problems. Raymond emptied trash cans, wiped down tables, and stayed out of everyone's way. The contestants barely looked at him. They were too focused on their own nerves to notice the janitor moving quietly in the background. That was fine with Raymond. He preferred it that way. But then something happened. Around 8:30, a young man in his early 20s stumbled into the backstage hallway. His face was pale, almost gray, and his hands were shaking badly. He was wearing a nice suit that looked too big for his thin frame, and he was breathing in short, shallow gasps. Raymond recognized the signs immediately. He had seen this before. The young man was having a panic attack. A woman rushed over to him. She looked like she might be his mother. Her voice was high and frantic as she tried to calm him down. "Breathe, sweetheart. Just breathe. You can do this. You have practiced so hard." But the young man shook his head violently. Tears were streaming down his face. "I cannot do it," he gasped. "I cannot go out there. There are too many people. I am going to throw up. I am going to pass out. I cannot do it." Two event organizers rushed over. They tried to help, but the young man was too far gone. His panic had taken over completely. Within minutes, a decision was made. The young man was escorted to a quiet room to calm down, and his name was crossed off the list. He was out of the competition. Raymond watched all of this from a distance. He felt sorry for the young man. He understood what it was like to have fear take control of your body. He understood what it was like to feel like the world was closing in on you. But there was nothing he could do. He was just the janitor. So he went back to wiping down the tables. That was when the host of the show appeared backstage. The host was a tall man in his 50s, with silver hair and a voice that boomed even when he was not trying to be loud. He looked stressed. His forehead was covered in sweat, and he was snapping at everyone around him. "We have a 15-minute gap now," he said to one of the organizers. 15 minutes of dead air. The audience is going to get restless. We need someone to fill that slot. Anyone. I do not care who it is. The organizer shrugged helplessly. Everyone else is already scheduled. There is no one left. Quote, the host cursed under his breath. He turned around in frustration, scanning the backstage area like he was searching for a miracle. That was when his eyes landed on Raymond. Raymond did not notice at first. He was wiping down a folding table, his mind focused on nothing but the task in front of him. But then he realized the room had gone quiet. He looked up and found the host staring directly at him. "You," the host said, pointing a finger. Raymond blinked. "Yes, sir. I am the janitor." The host took a step closer. His eyes narrowed like he was studying Raymond's face. "I heard you earlier," the host said slowly. "About an hour ago. You were humming something near the stage entrance. Then you started singing under your breath. You thought nobody was listening, but I was standing right around the corner." Raymond felt his stomach drop. His secret. Someone had heard his secret. It was nothing," Raymond stammered. "I did not mean to." "Can you sing?" the host interrupted. "I mean really sing. Not just humming. Can you actually perform?" Raymond did not know how to answer. His mouth opened, but no words came out. This was not supposed to happen. He was supposed to be invisible. He was supposed to stay in the background where nobody could see him. His supervisor appeared from nowhere. The heavy-set man with the permanent frown crossed his arms and laughed out loud. "Him? Sing? He is a janitor. He mops floors. He does not sing." The host ignored the supervisor. He kept his eyes locked on Raymond. "I am asking you a simple question. Can you sing or not?" For a long moment, Raymond stood frozen. His mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts at once. He thought about all the years he had spent hiding his voice. He thought about the music scholarship he had given up. He thought about Christine leaving, about the note on the kitchen table, about all the broken dreams he had buried deep inside himself. And then he thought about Lily. He thought about his daughter sleeping in his mother's apartment right now, waiting for her daddy to come home. He thought about the life he wanted to give her, the life she deserved, a life that was bigger than a one-bedroom apartment and a janitor's paycheck. Something shifted inside Raymond. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. He looked at the host and nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "I can sing." The host clapped his hands together. "Good. You are on in 15 minutes. Do not make me regret this." And just like that, Raymond's entire life was about to change. He did not have a costume. He did not have a rehearsal. He did not have anything except a gray janitor uniform with his name stitched on the pocket and a voice that the world had never heard. 15 minutes. That was all the time he had to prepare for the biggest moment of his life. Raymond pulled out his phone with trembling hands. He needed to make a call. He needed to hear her voice before he stepped onto that stage. He dialed his mother's number and waited. The phone rang 3 times before his mother picked up. "Raymond? Is everything okay? You never called during your shift. When does our phone?" His mother's voice was tired but alert. She was 71 years old and had spent the last 3 years helping him raise Lily without a single complaint. She never asked for anything in return. She never made him feel like a burden. She was the strongest woman Raymond had ever known, and he owed her everything. "Mom, I need to talk to Lily," he said. His voice was shaking. "Is she awake?" There was a pause on the other end. His mother could hear something different in his voice. Something she had not heard in years. "She just fell asleep about 20 minutes ago." "What is going on, son? You sound strange." Raymond leaned against the wall of the backstage hallway. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. Around him, the chaos of the talent competition continued. Organizers rushed past him. Contestants whispered nervously to each other. But Raymond was somewhere else entirely. He was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at a decision that could change everything. "Mom, something happened," he said quietly. "Something I never expected. They want me to sing. On stage. In front of hundreds of people." Silence. Then his mother spoke, and her voice cracked with emotion. "Raymond, baby, are you serious? I know it sounds crazy. I know I have not sung in front of anyone in years. But they heard me. Mom, the host heard me singing while I was working. And now there is an empty slot in the show. And they want me to fill it. I have 15 minutes. I do not know what to do." His mother took a deep breath. When she spoke again, her voice was steady and full of a certainty that Raymond desperately needed. "You listen to me, son. I have watched you bury yourself for 3 years. I have watched you give up your dreams and work yourself to the bone just to survive. And I never said anything because I knew you were doing what you had to do for that little girl. But Raymond, I never stopped believing. I never stopped praying that one day, God would give you another chance. And now he has. Do not you dare walk away from this." Raymond closed his eyes. Tears were building behind his eyelids. "What if I fail, Mom? What if I go out there and forget the words? What if everyone laughs at me? Then you fail," his mother said simply. "And you get up the next morning and keep going, just like you always do. But at least you will know. At least you will not spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been. That kind of wondering eats you alive, baby. Trust me. I have seen it happen to too many people." Raymond wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. He was a grown man, crying in a backstage hallway, wearing a janitor uniform, about to do something absolutely terrifying. But his mother's words had done something to him. They had cracked open a door he had kept locked for a very long time. "Can you wake Lily up?" he asked. "Just for a minute. I need to hear her voice." There was shuffling on the other end of the line. Soft footsteps. The creak of a door opening. Then the gentle sound of his mother whispering to his daughter. A moment later, a small, sleepy voice came through the phone. "Daddy?" Raymond's heart melted. Every single time he heard that voice, he remembered why he kept fighting. "Hey, baby girl, I'm sorry I woke you up." "It is okay, Daddy. Grandma said you needed to talk to me. Is something wrong?" Raymond smiled through his tears. "No, sweetheart, nothing is wrong. Actually, something really special is happening right now. Daddy is about to do something scary. Something he has not done in a very long time." "What is it?" "I am going to sing, baby. On a big stage. In front of a lot of people." There was a pause. Then, Lily's voice came back, filled with excitement. "Really? Like a real singer?" Like the people on TV? Yeah, baby. Just like that. Daddy, that is so cool. Are you nervous? Raymond laughed softly. Very nervous. That is why I called you. I needed to hear your voice before I go out there. Do not be scared, Daddy. You have the best voice in the whole world. You sing to me every night. And it is my favorite thing ever. Those people are going to love you. I know it. Those words hit Raymond like a wave. His 7-year-old daughter, half asleep, had just given him more courage than anyone else ever could. I love you so much, Lily. More than anything in this whole world. I love you too, Daddy. Go sing really good, okay? And then come home and tell me all about it. I will, baby. I promise. He hung up the phone and stood there for a moment, letting the conversation sink into his bones. He thought about all the nights he had sung Lily to sleep. All the lullabies, all the silly songs he made up just to hear her laugh. She was right. He did have a voice. He had just forgotten how to use it. Not anymore. A production assistant appeared beside him, holding a clipboard and looking stressed. You are on in 5 minutes. Do you have a song picked? Raymond nodded. He knew exactly what he was going to sing. A song that had been with him since childhood. A song his mother used to play on their old record player when he was just a little boy. A song about hope, about struggle, about believing that change was possible even when everything felt impossible. I am ready, he said. The production assistant led him toward the stage entrance. As they walked, Raymond caught a glimpse of himself in a mirror hanging on the wall. Gray uniform. Name tag on his pocket. Worn-out shoes. He did not look like a performer. He looked like exactly what he was. A janitor. A single father. A man who had been beaten down by life but refused to stay down. Maybe that was okay. Maybe that was enough. He reached the edge of the stage curtain and stopped. On the other side, he could hear the host speaking to the audience, explaining that there had been a last-minute change in the lineup. He could hear the murmur of the crowd, the rustling of programs, the coughs and whispers of 500 strangers who had no idea what was about to happen. Raymond took a deep breath. The host's voice boomed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next performer to the stage. There was polite applause, nothing special. Just the standard greeting for any unknown contestant. Raymond stepped out from behind the curtain and walked toward the microphone. The lights were blinding. For a moment, he could not see anything except white. Then his eyes adjusted, and he saw the audience. Rows and rows of faces, all staring at him. Some looked curious, others looked confused. A few people in the back were whispering to each other, and he could tell from their expressions that they were wondering why a janitor was standing on stage. He heard someone laugh. A short, mocking laugh that cut through the silence like a knife. Raymond gripped the microphone stand. His hands were sweating. His knees felt weak. Every instinct in his body was screaming at him to run. To get off the stage and go back to his cleaning cart where it was safe, where nobody could see him, where he could stay invisible forever. But then he thought about Lily. He thought about her sleepy voice on the phone. He thought about her saying he had the best voice in the whole world. He thought about his mother telling him not to walk away. He thought about all the years of hiding, all the dreams he had buried, all the songs he had sung alone in empty hallways when nobody was listening. Somebody was listening now. Raymond closed his eyes, took one last deep breath, and opened his mouth to sing. The first note came out soft, almost like a whisper. It floated through the air and reached the back of the auditorium before anyone even realized what was happening. Then came the second note, and the third. And suddenly, the room went completely silent. Raymond was singing a song that had been written decades before he was born. A song about struggle. A song about waiting for change to come. A song that had carried millions of people through their darkest moments. And now, standing on that stage in his gray janitor uniform, Raymond was making it his own. His voice started low, full of pain and longing. The words poured out of him like water from a broken dam. Years of hurt, years of disappointment, years of waking up before dawn and working until his back ached and his hands were raw. All of it came through in his voice. The audience did not move. did not breathe, did not blink. A woman in the third row put her hand over her mouth. Her eyes were already filling with tears, and the song had barely begun. Beside her, her husband sat frozen, completely hypnotized by what he was hearing. On the judges' panel, 3 people sat behind a long table with microphones and scorecards. The first judge, a woman in her 60s who had spent 30 years in the music industry, leaned forward in her chair. Her pen slipped from her fingers and rolled onto the floor, but she did not notice. She was too focused on the man standing under the spotlight. The second judge, a younger man known for being harsh and critical, had his arms crossed when Raymond first walked on stage. He had rolled his eyes at the sight of the janitor uniform, but now his arms had fallen to his sides. His mouth hung slightly open. He looked like someone who had just witnessed something impossible. The third judge simply stared. She did not move at all. Tears were streaming down her face, leaving tracks in her makeup, but she made no effort to wipe them away. Raymond did not see any of this. His eyes were still closed. He was not performing for the judges. He was not performing for the audience. He was performing for himself, for his daughter, for every single moment he had spent hiding in the shadows, too afraid to let the world hear his voice. The song built slowly, like a sunrise. Raymond's voice grew stronger with each verse. What had started as a whisper became a roar. The sound filled every corner of the auditorium. It bounced off the walls and ceiling. It wrapped around every person in that room and held them tight. In the middle of the song, Raymond opened his eyes. For the first time, he saw the audience clearly. He saw the tears. He saw the open mouths. He saw people grabbing each other's hands and holding on like they were afraid they might float away. And something inside him shifted. The fear that had gripped him for so long began to loosen its hold. He was not invisible anymore. For the first time in years, people were actually seeing him. Raymond poured everything he had into the final verse. His voice cracked with emotion, but he did not stop. He could not stop. This was not just a song anymore. This was his story, his struggle, his hope. Everything he had been carrying alone for so long was finally being released. When he hit the last note, he held it for what felt like an eternity. The sound hung in the air, pure and powerful, echoing through the silent auditorium. Then it was over. Raymond lowered the microphone and opened his eyes. For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. The room was completely silent. So silent that Raymond could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. For one terrible moment, he thought he had failed. He thought the audience was going to start laughing. He thought this whole thing had been a horrible mistake. Then a single person stood up. It was the woman in the third row. The one who had been crying since the first verse. She rose to her feet and started clapping. Her husband stood up beside her. Then the couple next to them. Then the entire row. Within seconds, the whole auditorium was on its feet. The applause was deafening. It crashed over Raymond like a tidal wave. People were cheering, screaming, whistling. Some were still crying. Others were laughing with pure joy. A man in the back row pumped his fist in the air and shouted something Raymond could not hear over the noise. Raymond stood at the center of the stage, completely overwhelmed. He did not know what to do. He had never experienced anything like this in his entire life. His legs felt weak. His hands were trembling. Tears were streaming down his face, but he was smiling, really smiling. For the first time in years, he was genuinely happy. The standing ovation lasted for 4 full minutes. 4 minutes of uninterrupted applause. 4 minutes of strangers showing a janitor that his voice mattered. That he mattered. That all those years of struggle and sacrifice had not been for nothing. On the judges' panel, the woman in her 60s finally found her voice. "I have been in this industry for over 30 years, she said into her microphone. Her voice was shaking. "I have heard thousands of singers, professionals, amateurs, everyone in between, and I can tell you, with absolute certainty, that what I just witnessed was one of the most powerful performances I have ever seen in my life." The audience erupted again. More cheers. More applause. The harsh younger judge leaned into his microphone. His face had completely changed. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something that looked like humility. When you walked out here in that uniform, I am going to be honest with you. I thought this was going to be a joke. I thought someone was playing a prank, but you just proved me wrong in the best possible way. That was incredible. Truly incredible. The third judge wiped her eyes with a tissue and took a deep breath. I do not even have words, she said softly. All I know is that I felt something while you were singing. Something real, something true. You did not just sing a song. You told your story. And that is what real music is supposed to do. Thank you for sharing that with us. Raymond nodded, unable to speak. His throat was too tight with emotion. The host walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. Ladies and gentlemen, the host announced to the crowd. I want you to know something. This man right here was not supposed to perform tonight. He is not a contestant. He works here. He is a janitor at this convention center. I heard him singing backstage and asked him to fill an empty slot. And look what happened. The audience gasped. Then the applause started all over again, even louder than before. Raymond looked out at the sea of faces. These were strangers. People he had never met and would probably never see again. But in that moment, they felt like family. They had witnessed his transformation. They had seen him step out of the shadows and into the light. Backstage, hiding behind the curtain, Raymond's supervisor stood frozen. The same man who had laughed when the host asked if Raymond could sing. The same man who had dismissed him as nothing more than a janitor. His face was pale. His jaw was tight. He had no words. Raymond caught his eye as he walked off the stage. He did not say anything. He did not need to. The look they exchanged said everything. As he stepped behind the curtain, Raymond pulled out his phone. He had one message from his mother. Lily woke up and asked if you sang yet. I told her yes. She said she already knew you did amazing. She said she felt it. We are so proud of you, baby. I can't to be. She's 0. We are so proud of you, baby. Raymond read the message 3 times. Then he sat down on a folding chair, buried his face in his hands, and cried like he had not cried in years. But these were not tears of sadness. These were tears of relief, tears of joy, tears of a man who had finally remembered who he was, and this was only the beginning. Raymond did not win the talent competition that night. When all the votes were counted and the scores were added up, he came in 3rd place. A teenage girl who played the violin took 1st. A retired firefighter who danced took 2nd. Raymond, the janitor who appeared out of nowhere and brought an entire auditorium to tears, finished 3rd. But here is the thing about that night. The placement did not matter, not one bit. What mattered was what happened next. Someone in the audience had been recording Raymond's entire performance on their phone. It was a woman sitting in the 7th row, who had originally started filming just to capture memories of the event. She had no idea she was about to capture something that would be seen by millions of people around the world. She uploaded the video to social media that same night, around midnight, with a simple caption that said, "This janitor just gave the most incredible performance I have ever witnessed. Watch until the end." By the time Raymond woke up the next morning, the video had been viewed over 200,000 times. By that evening, it had crossed 2 million. By the end of the week, the video had been shared on every major platform. News stations picked up the story. Websites wrote articles about the janitor who stunned a talent competition. People from different countries were commenting in languages Raymond could not even read. The video eventually reached over 12 million views, and it showed no signs of slowing down. Raymond's phone would not stop ringing. Reporters wanted interviews. Local television stations wanted him to appear on their morning shows. People he had not spoken to in years suddenly remembered his number and called to say congratulations. It was overwhelming. Raymond had spent so long being invisible, and now it felt like the entire world was looking at him. But through all the chaos, one moment stood out above everything else. It happened the morning after the competition. Raymond had barely slept. He was exhausted, emotionally drained, and still trying to process everything that had happened. He drove to his mother's apartment to pick up Lily, just like he did every morning. When he walked through the door, Lily was sitting on the couch with his mother's old tablet in her hands. She was watching something on the screen, and her little face was glowing with concentration. Raymond walked closer and realized what she was watching. It was him. It was his performance. Someone had already uploaded it, and his 7-year-old daughter was watching her father sing on a stage in front of hundreds of people. Lily looked up when she heard him coming. Her eyes were wide. Her mouth was open in amazement. She stared at him like she was seeing him for the very first time. "Daddy," she whispered. "That is you. You are on the TV. You are famous." Raymond knelt down beside her and smiled. "I do not know about famous, baby. I just sang a song." Lily shook her head firmly. She grabbed his face with both of her small hands and looked directly into his eyes. "No, Daddy. You did not just sing a song. You were amazing. You were like a superhero." Grandma cried when she watched it. "I almost cried too, but I wanted to be brave like you." Raymond pulled his daughter into a hug and held her tight. He did not say anything. He could not. The lump in his throat was too big. He just held her and let the tears fall silently onto her hair. Over the next few months, Raymond's life changed in ways he never could have imagined. A small record label reached out and offered him a modest recording contract. It was not a major deal. It was not millions of dollars or instant fame. But it was real. It was a chance to record his own music and share it with the world. Raymond signed the contract without hesitation. He also got invited to perform at local events around the city. Charity fundraisers, community festivals, school assemblies. The money was not great at first, but it was enough to quit the janitor job he had worked for 3 years, enough to move out of the tiny 1-bedroom apartment and into a small house with 2 bedrooms, enough to give Lily her own room for the very first time. The day they moved into the new house, Lily ran through the empty rooms with her arms spread wide, laughing and spinning in circles. "This is ours, Daddy? This whole place is ours?" Raymond leaned against the doorway and watched her with a full heart. "Yeah, baby, this is ours." He never forgot where he came from. In every interview, at every performance, Raymond made sure to tell his story. He talked about the night shifts, the cleaning carts, the empty hallways where he used to sing alone because he was too afraid to let anyone hear him. He talked about being a single father, about sacrifice, about what it means to put your dreams on hold for someone you love. And he always talked about Lily. "My daughter is the reason I am standing here today," he would say. "She believed in me when I did not believe in myself. She reminded me that I had a voice worth hearing. Everything I do for her." Lily came to every single one of his performances. She sat in the front row, always, wearing her favorite dress and holding a small sign she made herself. The sign had 5 words written in crayon. "That is my daddy singing." Raymond would look down at her from the stage before every show, and she would give him a thumbs up. It became their little ritual, their secret language, a reminder that no matter how big the crowds got, they were still a team, still a family, still 2 people who had made it through the hard times together. One evening, about 6 months after the talent competition, Raymond was tucking Lily into bed when she asked him a question. "Daddy, do you remember when you used to sing to me every night, before you got famous?" Raymond smiled and sat on the edge of her bed. "Of course I remember. I still sing to you every night." Lily nodded sleepily. "I know, but it is different now. Before, it was just you and me in our little room. Now the whole world gets to hear you. Is that not scary?" Raymond thought about it for a moment. "Sometimes it is scary," he admitted. "But you know what? The whole world does not matter as much as you do. When I am on that stage, singing in front of hundreds of people, I always pretend I am just singing to you, just like I did in our little room. That is what makes it feel safe." Lily smiled and closed her eyes. "I like that, Daddy. You can always pretend you are singing to me." Raymond leaned down and kissed her forehead. "I love you more than anything in this world. Lily, I love you too, Daddy. Good night." He turned off the light and walked to the doorway. Before he left, he looked back at his daughter one more time. She was already drifting off to sleep, her face peaceful, her breathing soft. Raymond stood there for a long moment, thinking about everything that had brought him to this point. The broken dreams, the abandoned scholarship, the note on the kitchen table, the years of mopping floors and emptying trash cans, the fear that had kept him silent for so long. And then, the moment that changed everything. The moment he decided to stop hiding and start singing. Life does not always turn out the way you expect. Sometimes, it breaks you down and makes you feel like you have nothing left. But if you hold on long enough, if you keep pushing even when it hurts, sometimes you get a second chance. Sometimes the world finally hears your voice. Raymond closed the door softly and walked down the hallway of his new home. He was still humming when he reached the kitchen. Some habits never change.